There's a teacher in here who talks about how she felt like she was being asked to lie to her students. And I heard her say, I'm like, that's exactly right. How uncomfortable. They make us lie to ourselves, to our companies, to, in her case, her students, which is all hashtag part of the problem. Take a listen to SOT 16. This is fire teacher Jessica Tapia.
A teacher who refused the transgender ideology at your school, and in return you were fired, and the school refused to accommodate your religious beliefs. How did that make you feel?
It felt surreal, and it still does, honestly. You could have never told me that I would spend 7 years going to college to become a teacher, live out my dream, impacting and influencing, the next generations, only to 6 years into my career be let go of because, according to my school district, they could not accommodate my religious beliefs. The policies they presented me really essentially are wrapped around lying. So lying to students first and foremost, because they've asked me to call children by whatever they want to be called by, whatever gender, pronoun it is. I have to go along with that. And so if you really think about that, right, that is lying to a child.
So Robby, making us lie about the pronouns is it's an important part of their game.
It's very important because it's about shared reality. Any type of cultural Marxism that's comes to be through chaos and dividing us on the lines of reality. What's real anymore? And so if you force people to lie and you change the definitions of words, this is the end result, is you're able to usher in a cultural Marxism across the board that leads to a political Marxism. And that's really the end goal here, is a modern form of communism. That's what we're facing. My family came from Cuba, and it's a big reason why I felt compelled to basically burn down my career in Hollywood and speak out about these issues, because it's just about the dumbest thing you can do in Hollywood is come out and be like, hey, I'm a conservative and let's talk about all these issues you guys act like absolute lunatics about,
Yeah, completely. But you do a very effective job in the film of showing how some of these sneaky things have gotten into our school systems that sound nice. And it's not just DEI. I think our audience is familiar with how they've done that. But to pull a couple, exposure effect, the mere exposure effect, comprehensive sex ed, which is not what you think it is, folks, and social emotional learning. Let's start on that last one because it has such a nice name and it used to do kind of nice things. Social emotional learning. All right, so talk about what that was and why now, if parents hear that, they need to have a red flag up.
It sounds so nice, doesn't it? I mean, all these words, that's really, it's great marketing. I'll give them that. They've really marketed these things effectively because who hears that and thinks, oh, that's a threat? It's kind of like a teddy bear with a bomb inside. You would never expect it, right? But the reality of this in practice in classrooms results in, hey, essentially, we're going to remove the lines of what is right and wrong because you can't judge anybody. That would be, not emotionally okay for that other person. They'd feel emotionally unsafe. It leads to all of these sort of social justice topics. And it's an opening for the teachers to insert their own political ideology. And so really, I can't explain it better than the experts in the film do because they so perfectly pick apart everything wrong with social emotional learning. But as you go down the line, like you said, all of these different issues, they may sound nice in theory, but in reality, they work out very differently.
Mm-hmm. Basically it's teaching everything through this racial and quote equitable lens, which restores racial hierarchies, and equity is really just code for inequity and racism. I mean, that's the truth. So what was once more of a pay attention to feelings and all that has now been co-opted into a racial imprint is on everything. And there is a hierarchy that is taught to your kids through this social emotional learning. You take on DEI and this race essentialism that's pervasive now in so many of our school lessons. I mean, it's everywhere. And you feature my favorite pastor. We played him just the other day. He was one of the ones who took a stand publicly saying, let me read you this disgusting book that wound up in our school library. Oh, was it something I said? Oh, did I offend you at the school board meeting? His name is John Amachukwu. I don't have it in front of me. It's Aman Chukwu. That's how it's pronounced. Forgive me, John. You're amazing. You know I love you. And here's a bit of you talking to him about what's happening. This is again from The War on Children. Watch.
What does it mean to you as a black man, as a black father? Do you feel protected or included by knowing that there's a DEI officer at every school?
No, I don't. It doesn't benefit blacks through DEI. In North Carolina, in particular, when you consider Wake County, we've had a DEI office since 2013, and they have spent nearly $8.7 million on that office. And where are the measurable outcomes? You can't find any.
So as you've taken a hard look at this, you know, the race craziness, the gender craziness, and the weird attempt to sexualize our children at very young ages, do you have a thought on what's the biggest threat? And also, are we winning this war or losing it?
All of these things are weapons in the war on children that all ultimately lead to the desire to usher in a modern form of communism. You know, like we cover social media and big tech in the film and its effect on young people. And I think social media is a really good example for the older crowd to understand the difference between modern communism and the communism from their generation, because some of them have thought, oh, well, this couldn't be communism. They're not outright saying they want to take control of private industry. But you don't need to anymore. The truth is the modern day communists are even less honest than the communists of the past. And that's saying something, since the communists of the past were disgusting liars. So these ones are even bigger liars. And if you look at big tech, functionally take a look at how they treated censorship around the 2020 election. Myself and Charlie Kirk currently have an amicus brief at the Supreme Court in the Missouri v. Biden case, because DHS used proxies paid by the government to make censorship requests to take down our accounts on social media, because we were pushing facts and stories that were not what the media wanted or what the administration wanted the narrative to be. And so when you look at the reality of what our government's turned into, they essentially own big tech. They can tell them what to do at every turn. You look beyond the apps, you know, that we're all on for social media at a company like, say, Google. Google answers to the Democratic Party. Look no further than a lot of their executives and employees, like their comms director, who has a litany of far left Democrats he worked with before he became an executive at Facebook. So, you know, I think all those things together, you can very clearly see that they want to control all these segments of society, these cultural institutions, to push an authoritarian far left vision for our country. And the reason our kids are so important is because you need to separate kids from their parents to be able to usher in this ideology. It works like that every single time. They did it in Cuba. They will do the same thing here if we don't stop them. And as to your point of, are we winning the war? I'm going to be really honest. We are not winning at this point. Have we started to turn the tide? Yes. But the reason that we made this movie, the reason that we're doing everything that we're doing, is because we desperately need to win. We need to wake people up. We need to get the word out there about what this actually is. And I think one of the most toxic things is, you know, a lot of people, they get these stories. Their life is so busy. You see them on a, you know, bi-weekly basis. So you'll see some crazy story about a kid being transitioned, and then 2 weeks later, you see one about a DEI policy resulting in something terrible. But it's very difficult unless you see it all at once to really understand the totality of how evil this really is. And that's why we made the film, because this can take somebody who does not understand what's going on. And if they sit and watch the film at the end of it, they will have no excuse to not be activated to be a warrior for our kids and save this country. Because even if you disagree with me on tax policy or school choice or whatever it is, you should care enough about our children, about the future generation, about their minds, about the freedom of their minds, to stand up and do something to stop this ideology in its tracks, because the religion of wokeness will destroy this country if we don't stop it.
Financial experts thought we were in the clear. They were anticipating around 6 rate cuts by the Fed this year, and then the inflation data came out higher than expected. It's not going away. Not anytime soon, that's for sure. How could it? The U.S. is $34 trillion in the hole, and yet we keep printing money, which pushes the prices you pay every day even higher. So you can either bury your head in the sand or you can do something about it. One option to consider is to diversify a portion of your savings into gold with Birch Gold Group. Gold can be your hedge against inflation, and Birch Gold makes it easy to own. They will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Text Megyn, M-E-G-Y-N, to 989-898 and get your free info kit on gold. Then talk to a precious metals specialist about how you can choose to protect your savings from persistent inflation with gold. Text Megyn to 989-898 now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.